Boa tarde, pessoal. Bem-vindos ao nosso quadro semanal Guide Your Future. Meu nome é Thalita e eu sou a College Counselor do Colégio Positivo Internacional. E as nossas séries de lives, as lives semanais, vão ser com representantes de universidades ao redor do mundo. E hoje nós temos a presença do Kevin Fuchs. Ele também é um College Counselor de uma escola no México. E agora ele está trabalhando na Holanda e ele é um super expert em universidades da Holanda. Vamos lá? Igor, pode colocar o Kevin? Hi, Kevin! Welcome!
Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well. I just heard super expert.
Yes. Well, I mean, you're very knowledgeable about the Netherlands. Am I right?
Yeah, that's true.
Ok, very nice. All right. Deixa eu só falar para o pessoal que a gente vai... Oi, Pedro, tudo bem? Gente, a gente vai fazer a live em inglês, tá? O Kevin fala espanhol. Mas como que a gente vai fazer? Então, vocês podem deixar todos os seus comentários aqui na caixinha de comentários e a gente vai... E eu vou traduzindo, tá? Eu traduzo... Pode mandar perguntas em português, em inglês, em espanhol, que a gente vai conversando, tá bom? Eu vou fazendo a tradução aqui. I just told them that that I'll be translating everything that they put in our chat box. Okay, Kevin?
Yeah, I understood. So I was really happy.
Good. That's very nice.
Like I was passing a test. Yeah.
Okay, that's very nice. You're already fit. You're fit for Portuguese, Kevin.
Exactly. Yeah. Falo português.
No,
but I don't want to say that because that's all I understood.
Okay, that's okay. Kevin, can we start? Should we start?
Totally. Yeah. All
right.
So it's called Going Dutch, right? So Going Dutch, the Dutch is the word that we use for the people from the Netherlands, right? It's kind of a confusion because many people think it's Germans, but Going Dutch are actually the Dutch people, right? So Going Dutch style. We're going to be talking about that today. And first, I kind of want to ask as well. So I hope there's like some people that feel okay in writing maybe in the chat, but maybe, before we start, one of the things that come to mind of the students that want to study in the Netherlands, like why would they want to study in the Netherlands? I don't know if they have any reasons or if there's anybody who wants to in their chat like say why they are interested in studying in the Netherlands or what would be good about studying in the Netherlands.
Pessoal,
I don't know. Let's see.
Por que vocês se interessam pela Holanda? O que é interessante para vocês? O Kevin está perguntando. Pedro, se você puder dizer para a gente aqui, o que você acha? Isso aí. Por que a Holanda? O que será que tem de interessante na Holanda? Então, a gente está esperando algumas respostas. Enquanto isso, você quer... Would you like to start to continue, Kevin?
I could. I mean, I can also go into it, but yeah, I wasn't sure it's going to be super interactive, right? But like some of the reasons why people normally choose the Netherlands is first of all is the quality of education is very good, right? So most universities that like receive international students are public universities, and they are accredited through an organization called the NVAO, which is an organization that accredits all public education in the Netherlands, but also in Dutch, like Flemish-speaking Belgium, right? So it's the same accreditation that we use. And the degrees that come from the Netherlands have a recognition like worldwide, right? So we have different diplomas that you can get. So like one would be a Bachelor of Arts, one would be a Bachelor of Science, and one would be like a Bachelor of Law, like a LLB. And that also gives good access to masters afterwards, right? So like this is the first thing. It's like the quality assurance is very good, and you know that if you get a degree from a Dutch university, you know that you're getting a degree that has like good quality. The other one is the reputation. The Dutch have a really good reputation when it comes to education. It's a country that has always invested in education. A lot of public money goes into research. And if you look at the ranking worldwide, you will also see that the Netherlands always scores really well, right? Like obviously the first country is always the United States and then United Kingdom. Canada, they score really well, but the Netherlands scores really well as well. And you will see in all the rankings of the world, you will always see Dutch universities in the top 200, right? So you can also like say that Dutch universities, they compete with lots of Ivy League universities in the United States and other universities that we always know by name. But the Dutch ones, we don't always know them by name. But if you look at their ranking, they have a very good ranking. And if you compare that as well with what you pay, you also get like a better deal, right? You get like, I don't know what you say in Brazil, but in Colombia they call it a ganga. Do you know that word, ganga?
No, I have
No,
no
so it
idea.
doesn't
What does that mean?
doesn't exist. Like apparently, it's like when you get something really cheap, you can't even believe it. You know, like
No, I
it's like a
see.
steal. It's like a steal.
Oh, I see. I understand.
Yeah.
I don't know. Now I'm thinking here of a word in Portuguese that we could. No, I don't know.
No.
I don't
Okay.
know.
Well,
Hey guys,
maybe.
if somebody can help me out, se alguém conseguir me ajudar aí para um termo que a gente usa em português para dizer muito barato. Alguém sabe uma coisa assim que é, nossa, muito barata. Me ajudem aí nos comentários, tá, pessoal? Depois a gente vai ler. Can we continue? Let's go.
Yeah, totally. Right. So then the other thing is that when it comes to language and culture, I feel that also the Netherlands, we are very open-minded. We have we really receive other cultures. We really speak other languages, right? The fact that I speak Spanish, English, Dutch, German, it's really French. It's really like we speak a lot of languages, right? The fact that I understood what you were saying also is a very Dutch thing. Like we tend to be very when it comes to languages, we tend to be very open. We are. Since 2 or 3 years, we are the country that speaks English the best for not native, right? So that's also very good. Like, that like we're very, the English, like for instance, all education, many students often wonder like, so do I need to speak Dutch to study in the Netherlands? And the answer is no, you don't need to speak Dutch to study in the Netherlands. You just need to speak English because we offer lots of program in English. Right, so this is also very good, and there's a lot of cultures as well in the Netherlands. So there's always a lot of people that you can see. I'm currently living in Enschede, and there's a lot of actually Brazilians that I see here as well. So that's really cool to see that we have lots of like different cultures, which also is really cool for education. Right, it's a very educational environment, so there's a lot of investment in research, which is really good for the future. It's also very practical, right? The classroom experience in the Netherlands is very unique in a way. It really teaches you like several things, right? It's like you can have your own opinion, you can like think critically, you have to work in teams, it's problem based, or sometimes it's project based. It's interdisciplinary, so it's like an educational system that's also very very good. And what else? What would be other things? And then I think also it really, when you think about the international student experience, is that not just you coming to the Netherlands and studying, but also the opportunities that you will have here, right? So like being an international student, meeting other international students, but also as part of the Bologna Treaty, is that you can even go on an exchange. So you can even go like a half year to another university and study there as well. So like you can even have like an international experience within your international experience, which in most cases, this has been growing as well. So you see a lot of most bachelor programs have like exchange programs as well, just because it's funded also by the EU. So that's also really cool. Yeah, and it's just it's a good like that's just one of the few reasons so far that people want to come to the Netherlands.
Yes, this is definitely something that I noticed. You mentioned how Dutch speak English so well, and whenever I meet a Dutch person, I'm like I'm like, how is that possible? And the fact that most of your population speak English, and like down to the elderly, the elderly speak really good English. This is not what it happens, for example, in other countries in Europe. I mean, you have some generations that speak really, really good English, and then you have the older population that don't speak as well. But this doesn't happen with the Dutch. It's a tradition, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. Well, it's part of the like the education level as well, right? Like in high school and middle school, there's a lot of focus on languages. When I actually was young, we had to take French and we had to take German. And we also like English we had to take as well, right? So like we would be taking four languages in middle school, and then like later you could like drop some, right? I dropped math, which was like, I was so happy to drop math, but I didn't want to drop the languages, so I continue with the languages. So but in general, like people have a very basic understanding of a few languages, not just English, but also like neighboring languages. And Spanish, for instance, is becoming very popular. Portuguese, not so much yet, but there's a lot of people that because they also have like studied Latin, they can understand Portuguese.
Sure. I mean, if you know a little bit of French and you know Spanish, you pretty much can get most of Portuguese. I mean, if you listen really carefully, if somebody speaks slower, it's definitely something that it is possible. It's not super difficult. It's a good. Spanish and other Latin languages are good starters to at least understand the structure of Portuguese.
Yeah, totally. No, and that's how, when I went to Brazil, that's how I did it. And my friend was really surprised because we went to a Subway and I started ordering in Spanish, but I started making the sounds longer, like the
yes.
And my friend had told me that I spoke it really well, and I was like, I don't even speak it. I just made it up.
You just made up. You pretend, you fake your Portuguese, and your Portuguese comes out. It's great.
Exactly. Yeah.
I know we call it portanhol. We call it portanhol.
Exactly.
The conjunction between the unborn baby between Portuguese and Spanish.
Yeah, well, then I have a good one for you, because this is something that you will hear a lot in the Netherlands. It's called Dunglish, and that's kind of like what many professors speak at universities. Is many of them, they are actually like, they actually studied in Dutch, and because all these universities started to internationalize, they started, it was expected of them to speak English, but also like the research that they do. But when they do speak, they have a very like thick Dutch accent, and like often they have like words that like don't really make sense. So it's called Dunglish. So this is also like a word that would be good for this presentation.
I know.
Yeah. Well, so I'm just going to continue really quickly, right? This is what I was talking about earlier. So the first of all, like the quality and reputation, right? Is that the first NVAO, that's our accreditation, and that's from the government, right? So I worked at the Zuid University of Applied Sciences, for instance. And when I worked there, like we dealt with accreditation, and accreditation is a very important part of the process, right? If there's if you don't get any accreditation, you basically cannot use the diploma, and you cannot have like the classes that you want, and you also don't get the subsidies that you need for this. And to pass that accreditation, it's not easy. It's a very like rigorous process of accreditation. And something very important, which I think is really interesting, and I don't know if many countries have that, is really to assess whether or not a degree should exist, right? Because there's like many degrees that exist, and they could have lots of people, but if there's no future for that degree, it shouldn't exist. So this is something that in the Netherlands they do as well. So like if you select a degree in the Netherlands, believe me, it has passed all these tests, including the should it exist or not test, right? Because they really like look at employability. If there's no employment for like people that graduate from that program, they will basically cancel that program because it's not going to be useful. So it's really interesting to see like this process take place. And I think that's also why you would see the Dutch universities also ranking so high, because like they have passed like a really rigorous accreditation process and really exist because they should exist.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Kevin, just before you continue, we just on the question that we asked before, why Dutch University? We have Isadora da Rosa, and actually, this is Isadora's father who's speaking. So she says, he says, study on the Netherlands. What comes to us? Quality of study, life, and innovation, tackling environmental challenges. So this is another point that the Netherlands is very known for, right? Their sustainability and their preoccupation with the environment.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I can also see it from the other side, because I follow the like internal like debates but yeah, when it comes to the environment, and the Netherlands has been like dealing with the environment all the time, right? I don't know if you know the name the Netherlands, where it comes from. Do you know that or not?
No.
So, and I think in Portuguese, you call it like País Baixo or something like that. I don't know.
Yes, I mean, we call it Holanda, or we call it Países Baixos, something like that.
Yeah, and
but
that's related to the fact that the Netherlands is located 2 meters under sea level, right? So that's why it's called Países Bajos. Like in Spanish, it's Países Bajos, right? Like, and that's like nether means lower countries or lowlands, right? So because of that, like we have a lot of protection outside, to keep the water away from us. So we've always been challenged, like when it comes to the environment, and that's also like why water management, for instance, is one of the top export like knowledges of the Netherlands, right? So like after the Katrina happened in the United States, their Dutch knowledge actually was exported to New Orleans to build like those levees and to build all those systems. So it's like Dutch engineering. Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
So
oh my goodness. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, I didn't even know that. I
Yeah,
always
so
wondered
that's-
actually why was it called Países Baixos or Países Bajos, right? Or
Yeah.
what do you have you heard the name Holland?
Yeah, I hear it, but I don't use it. I always say the Netherlands because first of all, for me that's the official name of my country. Like my passport doesn't say Holland, it says the Netherlands. And Holland, like for me, is just provinces, like our two provinces that are like they are like the main provinces, right? They are like the ones that are most famous, right? That's where Amsterdam is, and that's where The Hague is. But for me, like in Dutch, like we don't say Holland, we say the Netherlands. And so I always use that. And I don't know, like in Spain as well, and in Spanish, I always use Holanda. But like sometimes I use officially, I say Países Bajos because I also think it has a beautiful meaning, right? And it sounds also like it sounds like it's so big, and Países sounds like there's more, right? But it's
it
just
sounds
one
like
country.
there's I understand. And the Netherlands is such a small country. I feel like the pace is a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, well, in Dutch we don't say Netherlands, we just say Nederland. Like we
Oh, I
don't say,
see.
so we say
Just
País
one.
Bajo. Yeah, exactly. But in English we say plural, and that's also because of the history. Because when it was founded under the United Provinces of the Netherlands. So it was like
Oh,
all
I
these
see.
provinces united. Yeah, but
Oh,
that's
I
just
see.
some history.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So let me just go to the next one, right? So like I said earlier, like so the educational environment is very interesting for a student. Like it really one thing that's really necessary, like it's not the easiest country to study in, right? But I feel like any country you go to, it doesn't matter like where it is, there's always going to be a challenge because you have to like deal with a culture shock as well, right? And when you go study abroad, like there's also probably like an educational shock. And I feel like in the Netherlands, you will probably get an educational shock because it is a very different system, right? It's a system where there's a lot of like student participation, which in Latin America, I feel like the schools that I worked at, there is a lot of student participation. And actually in Latin America, sometimes students tend to be even more informal with teachers as we would be here. But like for some countries, like people that come from Asia, that's already huge, right? Like the fact that teachers ask you questions and you're expected to answer, and you're expected to think out loud, and you're expected to give your opinion or to think critically with the professor, or even give your input. That's for some people already different, right? And I think also what's really good about the Netherlands is it's okay to make mistakes, right? Like you're here to learn. Like we're here for a reason. We're here to learn, and we're also here to learn together. And I think that's something that you get in a Dutch classroom, right? So it's like a mix of different like types of classes, right? There's lectures, there's discussions, there's presentations, there's simulations, there's like individual research, there are field trips and teamwork, and that's all like in like for education. And when it comes to classes, you have like classes like 40 weeks a year, and the classes are normally between 10 and 40 hours a week. And this is also something you see a lot, is that when students come to the Netherlands and they see their schedule and they have like a very empty schedule, they're like, wow, I'm not going to do anything. But there's one thing that the Dutch expect, and the Dutch really expect students to be responsible themselves. So the students have to take this responsibility. If you're a student who needs like a lot of attention from a teacher, and like who really needs to be motivated to do it, and otherwise you don't do it, right? Then you're not going to be successful in the Netherlands. Like, you really need to be doing this, because we are not going to follow the students, and we're not going to take their hand and say, like, try this. We're available for students if they need to, like, our teachers are available if they need to, right? But if the student doesn't come to the teacher, then nothing will happen. And this is also like a very different approach, right? Like, so it's a very individualistic country, and like, from that perspective, like, education exists as well. So you really need to know that as well. Like, you need to be like, handling that responsibility as well.
Yeah, you need to. This is why it's so important that we harvest the independence in our students. This is something that it's so important at Colégio Positivo. I actually in all the not only in Colégio Positivo Internacional, but all our schools. Is that students need to go after what they want, and not only wait for the teacher to come and tell them what to do. Actually, if they want to get something done, they should go there and ask the teachers, or and just be very proactive regarding their own educations and their plans, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's very student centered, right? So like, and even what you also see here is that, like, a professor, and this is also the thing, like, I actually studied in the United States. Like, I studied my undergraduate here in the Netherlands, and then I went to the United States, so I can also compare those two systems. And like, in the United States, there's always like a professor and doctor, and here it's more casual, I would say, right? And here it's also like, if you ask the professor like a question based on the assignment that's assigned to you, like, he will never give you the answer. He will probably like give you questions and guide you through questions, but they like, like, the Dutch are very like, teach, give a man a fish and he will eat all day, right? But teach the man how to fish and he will eat all his life. And this is like a really Dutch thing that we really like want to encourage people to think and like take that initiative and go on, right? So I think that's also something really, really cool. So if the students that can handle that, they are going to be very successful here. The students that don't have that yet, they definitely need to like, maybe do a foundation year or something like that, because otherwise it will be really hard.
I see, I understand.
Yeah. So this I already said, right? So like, the Dutch, like, we speak English probably the best. It used to be Sweden that spoke it the best, but now it's actually the Dutch that speak it the best. So like, good for us, right? Another win. And like, there's a lot of like cultural stuff that you can do in the Netherlands. Like, we're not many people know that much about us, but then when you get to know us, you can see like all the things that we do. We are monarchy, like, we have a monarchy. So we have a king, not a monarch. And we have King's Day, which is coming up in 2 weeks. Obviously this year we won't really have a like a King's Day party, but normally King's Day parties are like famous in the Netherlands, especially for international students, right? We have this thing called herring, and it's like a fish that you just eat like with onion, and you just eat it like this. Which is not my thing. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Like,
oh wow, that's intense. With the skin and all?
Exactly. Yeah, you should look it up. I will send you a picture, but it's like, I don't eat it because I actually don't eat fish, but and you have to take it by its tail, and I haven't even tried it, so I'm not sure how it tastes, but yeah, but that's like really Dutch, right? And something really famous about the Dutch is that we have bikes. We have lots of bikes. We have more bikes than cars. And there's also like, the culture here is really created for bike, right? So there's lots of bicycle paths. As a user of bike, you have a lot of rights, right? So even if you get in an accident, like, most of the time it's never your fault. So there's a lot of things, yeah. So cars are very, cars will really take care of you because they don't want to deal with anything like that.
I see. So they were respectful towards the bikers.
Totally, yeah. There's a lot of respect for bikers, yeah. And also, like, we're very close to everything, right? So like, I would say we're in the middle of Europe. We're not really in the middle of Europe, but we are in the middle of Europe, and we feel also middle of Europe. We have a really good airline called KLM. I don't know if you heard about KLM, right? They connect Europe like with every country, right? So you can go anywhere because of the Schengen Treaty. Once you're in the Netherlands, you can go to any other country without any difficulties, right? Because that's part of like us being a part of the EU, and also part of the Schengen Treaty, which is the treaty
Yes, sure.
that talks about that. Yeah. So like you can go to Berlin, like basically all capitals are like within 1 or 2 or 3 hours flight. So like not even in Brazil you can get that, or can you?
No, generally no. Generally only the central ones. I guess Curitiba you can get from Curitiba to São Paulo to Rio. That's an hour. But now other capitals we have. I'd say from São Paulo to Manaus, for example, 6 hour flight, maybe even more. And Brazil is a big country.
Yeah, exactly, right. So like like Europe wouldn't even be as big as Brazil, right? And just because you're in the Netherlands, you're already in Europe, right? You don't have to pass any borders. So that's I think that's also really, really cool. And that's really cool for international students who come study in the Netherlands, because they can, like they're not just going to one country, they're actually going to many countries at the same time, but also meeting so many people from these countries.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's really cool, right? Like, and like something that you see here a lot is like bicycle parking. So like our bicycle parkings are kind of modern, right? They have like 2 floors, so you have to like really pull it out. You have to like pull it out and like put it on there, and then just like put it all back. And it's actually, it looks really heavy, but this system, there's like Dutch engineering at play, right? So like it goes really smoothly. So it's a really cool. Even that is a cool experience. I don't know if you've ever been to Amsterdam, but when you exit the Amsterdam train station, there's actually a bike parking that has 5 floors. It's just for bikes.
Oh my goodness! And do you have to press a button or something to get your bike to come down to you? Like you're not gonna climb?
No. You have to just park it yourself. You have to park it yourself. No, it's literally 5 floors, and it just goes like it goes like inclined. So you just like go and go and go and go and go and go like this. It's huge. It's like a huge building just for bikes.
Oh my goodness! Wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
No, I was thinking here the bikes would be all piled up, and you press a button, and then at least
Oh,
the 5th floor would come
not yet.
down, so you can get your bike.
No, because it's really like that seems expensive, right? So that's the other thing, is that like we like Dutch people, we like, going Dutch means like splitting the bill, right? Like, and Dutch people in general, like we don't like to waste our money. We like to be very efficient and effective, and we don't need all this modern stuff, as long as it works, right? As long as it's functional. So like something as well, that when you park your bike in a city, that's most of the time that's free. You never have to pay for it, right? But you do get security. You get, like you get like a state-of-the-art building where you can park. But if you go by car, it's like €8 an hour if you go to Amsterdam. So
wow. So they actually invest, and they actually recommend that you just use your bike. It's safer, it's greener, it's
totally.
it will do good to your body, to your environment, and to your pocket, right?
Yeah, and to your health, right? Like that like if you look at the people here, their legs are very muscular from their bike.
Oh, that's cool. Wow, that's very nice.
And also the train. So like a fun fact as well, when we're talking about the Netherlands, is that all the trains in the Netherlands, they run on wind energy. So there's the 0 CO2 emissions. So they also like really encourage those kind of things. Yeah,
cool.
right. So like this is King's Day, or it used to be called Queen's Day, but now we have a king, so it's called King's Day. And like, because our king is called Van Oranje Nassau, which means from orange, the color.
Oh, I see.
So that's our national color. Like, or so in 2 weeks, people will be wearing orange, but we won't be having a party, I guess.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, COVID.
Sad COVID times.
Yeah, sad. Yeah, and so like you obviously know the tulips, right? Which are very famous in the Netherlands. There's actually Keukenhof, which is a flower park, I would say. And they opened actually this week with the new COVID rules as a trial to see how it goes. Another thing that's really famous is the cheese. Dutch cheese is very famous as well, right? So there's even a cheese market.
That looks yummy.
Yeah, very good cheese. I have to say it's a good country if you like cheese. and then this is the like the mills, right? Like the old mills, right, that were used for grain, but now you see a lot of windmills that use electricity, right? So like now you see something different. And here's the fish I was talking about, actually.
Oh,
I
wow.
forgot
They
it was
put
even like
onion
this.
and it's all, wow. Oh my goodness. Wow. And it's
Yeah.
completely raw. It's nothing like you don't fry it, you don't cook
No,
it, you
they eat
don't
it
boil
raw.
it.
Yeah. I
Oh,
guess they
wow.
eat it raw. Yeah. I haven't seen people fry it, but they probably also fry fish, but I don't think they fry herring.
Okay.
Yeah, and then this is also something really Dutch, right? So like even stuff that you would not see um in other countries on a bike, like even that we do on bike, right? So even like moving a chair, if there's a bike, that fits, like that fits a chair, then we have a chair. then we move
Okay.
the like the couch with the chair. So it's
Mhm.
something that you see a lot. You see a lot of like parents that have their kids, three kids that you would normally say, well, I have three kids, like I'm gonna take the car. Like here you see the kids sitting in this kind of bike as well. So it's called,
In a four-spot bike, four
yeah,
people bike.
exactly. It's called a buckfiets. We call it a buckfiets. It has a name
Oh,
too.
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
I
so
have a
so so
question. Do
totally.
families usually opt on not having a car at all, or do they have a car and they just don't use it?
It's a mix. Like for instance, I don't have a car, and that's like really by choice. I could buy it, but I feel like I don't need it because like there's public transportation. I can take the train. I really don't need it that much. Like we don't like. I feel like it's a luxurious thing that I don't need necessarily
Mhm.
to live. Right? Like I have my bike. If I really need a car, I can always rent one, right? Or I can
Mhm.
share one or some, but I really don't need it. So it's really cultural. Like some people, they have like four cars, right? So obviously, it is really expensive to have a car because you have to pay taxes, and it's not like you get really charged for what you use, right? So
Mhm.
there's but you can have a car if you want, obviously, and there's lots of people that have cars, but then there's lots of people that have cars but still don't use them as much because also gas is really expensive here.
I see. I understand.
Yeah. Yeah, and like like they really also, in a way, there's also like they really discourage you from using a car that much, right? So like
Mhm.
what you see a lot is that like many cities, they have only one lane for traffic, and it's not because they don't want to have two or three lanes. It's just that they prefer people to be on their bikes, and they prefer to
Oh, I see.
like, yeah, so it's kind of like they kind of want to punish you, or they kind of want to encourage like a better behavior for the environment. So
Yes,
like think when it comes to that, yeah, we are very progressive, and some cities are more progressive than the others.
I understand.
Yeah. So the student experience and analysis is also very cool, right? We talked about this earlier. There's like lots of activity clubs, right? Social events. Not obviously right now there's not much to do, but in general, like it's a very like student life is very interesting here. Like there's a lot of like I wouldn't say drinking, but there's also like a lot of drinking. It's just like
Mhm.
it's the usual student experience.
I
Um,
see.
right? So there's always like orientation events. There's always like ways to have fun, to meet new friends, also, right? To create a network. Something
Mhm.
that also very cool is that there's also the Holland Alumni Network, which is an alumni network for people who have studied here in the Netherlands. So afterwards, they can
Oh.
like they can stay in touch, and actually, I was part of that for a while because I used to do alumni relations,
Oh,
and
that's
that's
nice.
really
Okay.
interesting. Yeah, it's really interesting, and they even have like focus groups, and one focus group is really focused on water management, right? Because we talked
Oh, I
about that,
see. Yes,
and
uh-huh.
it's focused on like the things that Netherlands is really good at, logistics with the with the port, and like we have a lot of logistics in the Netherlands. So those groups, they also are very good for networking, right? So it really
Mhm.
creates another reason to stay in touch, right? And to also like see, like in a global economy, there's like we need these kind of connections as well.
Sure, of course, of course. Do international students usually stay in the Netherlands to work?
Afterward, so like many programs, they actually offer like internships, so that's really
Mhm.
good because it gives you a chance to work, right? And the other thing is, if you get a student visa, you can do an orientation year afterwards. So it's really good for you to stay after. So if you want to stay in Europe, like that's a really good way. And I have lots of friends that are from other countries that came here, they studied here, and they found a job here, and then because of
Mhm.
that job, they got to stay here. So they,
Oh, I
they
see.
do it. Yeah, they definitely do it. Not
I see.
everybody.
I see. Kevin, let me ask you. Let me ask you another question. I understand that there are different levels of education, right? So I understand
Totally.
there are the universities, and then we have the applied sciences universities that are a different kind. But I see that there are opportunities for people who go out of high school or leave high school, and then they could also get a job, right?
So in the Netherlands, you can get a job if you get out of high school, but like, so if you go back to like the Dutch law, is that like anybody has like under 18, you need to get at least your high school diploma, right? So
Okay.
like anybody who doesn't get the high school diploma, they need to, there's also vocational colleges, so they need to do a vocational, right? So like skilled work. After 18, it's a little bit harder to control that. So if you didn't get your diploma before 18, then you could get away with it afterwards. But and there's jobs available, but those jobs are general, like kind of like white collar jobs, right? So it depends on what. Yeah,
I see.
but
I
it
understand.
happens. But most people, because the Netherlands is a very like knowledge-based economy, most people do get some kind of degrees because it's really cheap, for like Dutch, like if you look at it internationally, it's really cheap to study here.
I see.
For Dutch, yeah. Let me just, I don't know, like this, some, like just some pictures of of what this is. I'm just going to continue basically on what you were talking about, right? So like the University of Applied Sciences and research universities. So, and this is actually where this gets interesting for you, because I know that Brazil, you have 11 years, right, of high school.
Yes, I'd say now we had a recent change. Well, not that recent, that made our education go from 11 to 12 years. We added a year on our let's say middle school. So back in the day, we used to have 8th grade, and then we would go from 8th grade directly into high school. But now we have 9th grade as well. So now we have we have all the way to 9th grade, and then we have 3 years of high school, which is first year, second year, third year. This is national. This is for the national curriculum. So now we basically have the same amount of years. We have 12 years of education.
And is that like something recent?
It's not so recent. I mean, recent. I'd say maybe, I don't know, 5 years, 8 years ago.
Okay.
Something like that.
Well, the reason why, and this is also this is something that need to check, but sometimes in Latin America, they don't recognize all the years, right? So like sometimes if for like to be directly admissible, you would need, like, for instance, the IB diploma, because the IB diploma is internationally recognized, right? And then sometimes if they don't have that, then what you can do is there's two ways, right? Because in the Netherlands, we also have a track system. So we have one track that actually leads to vocational studies, and then we have one track that leads to this that's called HBO that you can see, right? So it's easy to remember because it's like HBO. And then we have one track which leads to direct admission into a research university. So what's the difference between the two? Well, what's similar is that in the end, you get a bachelor degree, right? So like internationally recognized is going to be a bachelor degree.
Okay.
The difference is that the University of Applied Science is 4 years, and the research university is 3 years, right? Then the University of Applied Sciences in general is more applied, right? So many people think it's something related to sciences, but it's really not. It's really related to the fact that it's applied, right? So it's very focused on the career. So it's a mix between theory and practice. So for instance, if you study business at the University of Applied Sciences, you get a very practical experience mixed with theory, right?
I see.
You get like a lot of, you get like the theory, but you also get like, the people that are in, for instance, that teach there, traditionally, not anymore, because right now you can see both. It's not like they don't have to have a PhD necessarily. It's people who have like a master's degree, but also like a lot of experience, right?
A lot of
they take that
experience in the job
experience to the
market.
classroom. Exactly, right? So
I
it's very like more hands-on, like very focused on the career. And they always have, at the end, they always have a mandatory internship. So you really get to practice like the things that you learned.
Oh, I see. All right.
Yeah. So and then on the other side, we have like the research universities, right? And those are the research universities that really like get in the ranking, and they really focus on like researching, and this is more like higher level thinking, and really focus on like research. Um, they in general, you can afterwards you can do like a 1 year master's, and in 4 years you already have your master's, right? So it's also
Oh,
very, but it's a very like independent, like you need to really do, right? Like a University of Applied Sciences is more, you still have like hands on, and you have like more contact with the teacher, and you still have like that guy, but whereas research is like based on you, right? You are in
oh, I
charge,
see. So you
right?
have to go and you have to find your knowledge, to ask, talk to your teachers, basically
Exactly.
fight for your education.
Yeah, totally. And like you might have a few classes a week, but then you have to like meet with your groups, and you really need to do your part, which at the
Mm-hmm.
University of Applied Sciences, you also have to do that, right? And like in the last years, that like difference that used to be very obvious, right? It's like very less now, because like both University of Applied Sciences or research universities can give you a Bachelor of Business Administration, right? It's just that the way
Oh,
that
I
they
see.
do it is different, right?
I
And
see.
like I would say the University of Applied Sciences is more personalized. It's like classes are
Oh,
smaller. It's
oh.
like it has like some differences. Yeah,
Is there
yeah.
is there a difference between which one is best, or are universities of applied sciences better than research universities, or the other way around?
No, well, I think it's like you would see in the United States. It depends really on the match, right? But depends on who
Uh-huh.
you are as a student. I would say honestly, like for like Latin America, I really recommend universities of applied sciences, because they're very like culturally they're still like there's more like guidance when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
they tend to, in the past those universities were very regional, so they were very like focused on the regional needs of a
Mm.
certain region. But now it like because of the internationalization and everything that has changed, they have also become like big institutions that offer like
Oh,
really good quality education.
oh, I see.
So it really depends on like who you are as a student. If you can handle like a lot of responsibility, and like you are in control of your own learning, and like that then a research university would be really good for you, right?
I
But
see.
the University of Applied Science, if you're very like if you like like if you really want to use the knowledge in practice, then you might want like a University of Applied Sciences. And there's another thing: some things, some programs don't really exist at a research university, right? Like medicine
Okay.
is like that's something you need to study as research. So that's like at a research university, right? You will never get that
Oh.
at a University of Applied Science.
Oh, I see. And talking about medicine, is there any programs that offer medicine in English in the Netherlands?
Yeah, there is one. So actually, there's like over 330. Well, actually, there's probably like way more now.
Uh-huh.
Programs that are offered in the Netherlands, and you can choose. I think there's over like 2,000 that are offered in English, right? But like many of these programs are the same. So like many universities offer like a Bachelor of Business Administration. So like program wise, there's like a little bit less. And medicine is a little bit hard because it really
Hmm.
serves the Dutch market. There
Hmm.
is like the University of Maastricht. I know that they have like recently made some changes to it in English, but it's still not at like where you want it. Yeah, like it's a little bit hard. It's a really hard, even for Dutch people. It's really hard to get into the medicine program. There's also
Okay.
numerous fixes, so they don't allow
Hmm.
everybody.
Hmm. So, how is the process? Let's say of numerous fixes. This is probably something that even our international students that speak English and or maybe more familiar with the terms are confused about. So, could you explain a little bit more what is a numerous fixes course?
Yeah, so like numerous fixes scores. Remember, like when I was talking about the accreditation, that like you want to make sure that you exist for a reason. So
Hmm.
sometimes, like so many people want to study a certain program that they tap it and they say, look, we cannot have like more than so many people, because otherwise we're going to saturate the market with
Hmm.
like this skill. And this is, I mean, honestly, like if you look at Latin America, this is what you see a lot. Like in Colombia, for instance, in Mexico, I have lots of friends that are doctors.
Hmm.
There's so many doctors that there's so much competition that they end up working at like pharmacies that are almost free. just because they, like they need, so it's like saturated with like too many doctors that don't really need them, right? I feel like right now we need them because of COVID, but before COVID, like they didn't need that many doctors. So numerous fixes is just to make sure, kind of like, it's a very Dutch way of controlling, that we don't get too many people studying the same, because otherwise like they will overflow the market and there's no jobs for them, and then they have to do something else. So so what happens with those programs is that they are tapped, right? But they do have a thing called selection. So something about Dutch education is that it's all about admissibility. If you're admissible, then you can enter normally, right? But if the numerous fixes, then that's the exception, because that means that not too many people can enter, so we do have to make a selection. But normally that depends. Each numerous fixes program has its own way of doing that. But in general, like you get like a number. So you get like a number based on like some factors, but they cannot really use your transcript, for instance.
Oh, so they don't use your transcript. Would they use what tasks? Do they have like
yeah? So what they do is sometimes they have a task. Like sometimes they have like a test, and like, but it's a task that they give you. So you study for it, and everybody has equal. So this is something about Dutch as well, is that there's like equality for everybody. Everybody gets the same equal treatment. Right, so if everybody has to do a test, everybody does the same test, and then they're judged on that test. But they're not just judged by their transcript, because every country has a different way of like transcript. Right. And also something that's like really Dutch, like by law, in admission, they cannot look at the transcript, because then they would be discriminating based on the grades. Right, so like, because everybody's equal, so it doesn't matter if you pass a course with a 5.5 or a 10, you're considered equal. You're not considered better.
For the university. So if you have the credentials, basically most programs, we don't have a competition. It's not like passing or not passing, or entering or not entering. You just have to have this minimum level of education, and you have to show that you studied in high school and you got your grades. You got the knowledge, and then you're able to enter in courses that are not numerous fixes, right? That are they're not competitive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I see. Yeah. I understand. Okay. Yeah. So you mentioned about one program, one medicine program in English. So that one is still not to English. Is that what you're saying?
To be honest, it's just that at this moment, I don't have the knowledge about the admission process of that program. I know that in the past, it has always been not possible, because the Dutch public education system actually serves the Dutch market. And because it serves the Dutch market, that would normally be offered only in Dutch.
In Dutch, that's correct. This is what I heard. That medicine was only in Dutch. It was actually a surprise that you told me now they're opening up to the international market for English.
Yeah, but I don't know exactly like the details of that. So
I see. I understand.
So I don't want to give any false information.
Oh no, don't worry about it. Okay.
Yeah. So just to go a little bit faster, there's also a thing called university college, which is kind of like a liberal arts, like they have in the United States, right? It's kind of like creating your own knowledge and becoming your own, like in charge again of your own learning and creating your own curriculum. So those are normally called university colleges, and those are normally kind of more like honors colleges. So they are like for the people that do there you can see more selection, right? They don't just accept anybody. This is more like there's people that really need to have a certain profile to fit in. So that one, the university colleges in general are very like recognized, but they do have a selection compared to like normal Dutch.
I see.
Yeah, so it's more like like how, like really like investigating, how do I do this, how do I do that, like a really like kind of like the IB but higher.
Yes.
Yeah. So just to go to admission requirements, right? So knowing if you are admissible, normally what the rule is, you need to have a high school diploma. That's the basic rule, right? But not every high school diploma is recognized. And the other thing is you need to understand Dutch system, because it's not just like the US that you have to have your diploma. No, you need to have a diploma that has the certain courses that have prepared you for this program, right? And in Dutch, it makes a lot of sense, because in Dutch, you go to high school and you pick a profile. There's 4 profiles. You pick a profile, and then based on that profile, you can study like these things, right? So in the Netherlands, if you want to study European studies, right, which is what I studied, they say, okay, if you want to study European studies, you need to have graduated with this profile, right? And they just say that this is the profile, which in Dutch makes a lot of sense. But if you come from a different country, you don't have that profile, right? So then if you want to know if you're admissible, you really need to check with each program what courses you need to have passed. You don't have to have passed it with like a 10. No, you just have to have passed it.
Okay.
And then be admissible. So that's always really important.
So so there are a couple of requirements, right? This is important for us to go over. So as for what we offer in Brazil, especially here at Colégio Positivo International, we have the Brazilian curriculum, and we have the IB, and this is actually very interesting. So let me just ask our support here, because I don't see your presentation anymore. Can we go back? Yes, there we go. Thank you so much for the support. So it's very important to actually have the requirements, right? So we have, if you got the IB diploma, generally you're in. You would get no. You have to have. You have to have the certain subjects, right?
Exactly, yeah. So like the IB diploma, you would make you admissible, right? But if you want to study anything related to engineering, you would have to have done like higher level science, but also in the arts, you need to have done a second science. Otherwise, you won't be admissible. So it's really focused on that, yeah. So this is really important, because if you want to study in the Netherlands, you don't plan that like the last year. I mean,
yes,
the way
you have to plan it a couple of years ago.
You have to, yeah, exactly. You really need to focus. And I feel like this, I mean, you know how it is, right? Even if you want to study in the United States, you really need to think about your classes seriously.
Yes.
It's not just about making like the funniest package you can find. No,
right.
It's really like, like planning this strategically, seeing what classes will give me extra credit and what classes are necessary for my next step. So, like when you're in my case, my students that are in 10th grade, they're going to be looking at like the courses that they can choose for next year, but they will only be doing that, well, hopefully, and that's what I'm gonna, like tell them to do, is they need to think about what they want to do. I'm not telling them to commit to a degree, but I tell them, look, at least like what kind of focus you want to go into, right? And then
especially
based
the
on
area,
that,
right?
yeah, totally, yeah.
And you have to somehow to figure out your area, and this I guess this is why it's so important for us to start early, right? To start talking to the students. I mean, it's not about picking your course. It's not about picking, making a commitment for life. I mean, they're teenagers, and they're about to change their ideas, but that's okay. But it's important to have at least an idea, and if you don't have an idea, to ask for help.
Totally.
and to work on self-knowledge. To actually ask the right questions, to actually figure out what are the limits, right? Or what are the areas that you're thinking about?
Yeah, and opportunities too. Yeah, no, I think so. That and that's really important. And like, I mean, at that age, I didn't know either, right? And like, it's easy to talk no, right? But I feel also because we have the experience, like, listen to us because we did it and we failed.
Yes,
right?
Yes, we did it. That's correct.
So it's really good, right? And it's really and it doesn't take that much time to find out like what exactly you need, right? If you want to study business, what kind of courses you're going to need and which ones you don't. And I think it's really important, like if you want to study architecture, that's what I had last year. I had a student who wanted to study architecture, and I started working with him, and he didn't even have physics. Like he took, what did he take? He took something really weird. He took computer science in the IB program. And I was like, well, that doesn't help you. Like you need physics and you need math, and you need them at higher level. So,
Mm-hmm.
so if this was like a lifelong dream to become an
Mm-hmm.
architect, you didn't really do your job, because that's something you should have started earlier. You needed to know exactly what courses to take.
Yes. But Kevin, let's say our students didn't take their requirements. They changed their minds. They figured that their life dream. They took art, and they realized that they wanted to do engineering. Is there another way out?
Totally. Well, there's a few ways actually, and that's a really good question for you to ask. So the first one is, if it's engineering at a research university, there's do you remember when I was telling you that there's like two tracks, and then like at the end you have like the same amount of years? You
Mm-hmm.
have 4 years of University of Applied Sciences and 3 years of bachelor. So what
Mm-hmm.
happens is that the first year of a University of Applied Sciences is called the foundation year,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like that could be the first way. So you could find a program that has a similar field, and this is again you need to do your research and find out like
Mm-hmm.
whether or not you can do this. But you need to find a university of applied sciences that offers something related to that field that would make you admissible, right?
No, I
So a good way that I was helping a student in Mexico who wants to study physics. She
see.
doesn't have like in the Mexican bachillerato, they don't have she's not admissible, right? So we
Mm-hmm.
were looking at like that loophole, and we needed to find a program that has physics, right? So it's not easy. Like and you really
Mm-hmm.
need to do, and when it comes to engineering, you really need to go the extra mile on research. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the first one. So you can do it because when you complete the first year of a University of Applied Sciences, you get a document called propedeutic, the certificate, right? And
Mm-hmm.
with that certificate, you can normally enter a university. You can also do 1 year of engineering in Brazil. And
Mm,
then with
really?
that, yeah, you can do 1 year of engineering. Like that's normally but you need to make sure that you take the classes that you need.
Right.
So one
Sure.
1 year of studies in a related field in your home country,
Uh-huh.
and then you can also like with that
Apply.
year,
Uh-huh.
yeah, apply, but you don't transfer to a second year. You transfer to the first year,
To the
which
fire to the
yeah, yeah,
first year. I mean, it's
yeah.
not too bad. It's definitely not too bad.
No, and then there's also one thing that's called a foundation year, and a foundation year is normally offered like in collaboration or like together with the university, and it really focuses on like the skills that are needed to get directly admitted, right? And normally, like when you do a foundation year at a certain university, you have the guarantee that you will be admitted directly on the condition that you pass the foundation year. And a foundation year is also a really good way to adjust to the academic life in the Netherlands, right? Because it really teaches you to to yeah, like to get gives you those skills. And
Mhm.
something, I don't know if you actually know that I actually started working at a foundation program in the Netherlands. So I don't want
Yeah.
it to become like like a publication, like a commercial,
Mhm.
but I
Mhm.
actually I really like working with the students that I'm working with now. Has made me really understand like the necessity for a foundation program, because it really is beautiful to see like all these the dedication of the people that work in a foundation program to
Mhm.
get these students ready, because many times these students aren't ready, right? They think they might be ready to start academic life, but then when they get here they realize they're missing like hard skills but also soft skills that are very
Yes.
necessary to study here.
It's a smoother transition, right? So they kind of they it's both culturally and academically, right? So
Yeah.
so the transition is smoother. I mean, it's an excellent option. Again, kids graduate high school, and sometimes they're so young and they're so immature. They sometimes need the extra moment to kind of settle everything in and actually go into university.
Yeah, totally. No, and I think that's really good, because the other reason why I think this is really important is that after the first year, there's a selection, and it's called the binding study advice, right? And when I said that
Oh.
in the Netherlands, like we cannot look at grades, right? Like everybody is admissible. If you're admissible, you're admissible. Basically, what it's saying is that, like we don't look at your grade for music if you
Hmm.
want to study physics, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
like those grades don't represent you. right? Like you need to start a program that you want to study and then see how you do. But if you don't do really well, then you have to leave, right? So like that's the other thing, is that it's very
Oh,
strict, right? So it's
oh
not
my
just like I'm in
goodness.
and I'm going to be there and I'm going to get another chance and I'm going to do another resit.
Oh,
It's
I
like,
see.
yeah, you fail, like you know, like everybody, you can have a test and then you can do a resit. But if you fail, then you fail the whole year, and then you
Oh,
can't just start over again. You get like a negative advice. So you have to
oh,
really
wow.
know what you're doing.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. That's intense. I didn't even know that. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not, so there is a selection point, but it's not on the first year. I mean, it's after the first year, right?
It's at the end of the first year, right?
Oh,
But like what they do is they do it like they try to meet before as well, just to see it like what students are surviving and like who needs a plan B, right? Who
oh, right.
yeah, it's and this is also because, you know, like sometimes students come from I feel like international students, because they come from a different country, they have done their research and they know what this is
Mhm.
about, right?
Uh,
But like in the Netherlands, sometimes students, they just like, it's so easy to just to be admitted because you're directly admissible, but then
Right.
you don't like it, right? But then if you don't like it, well, then you have to go. Or if
Oh,
you're not good at it, you have to go. If you don't like it, well, that's your choice, right? But if you're not good at it,
that is not really your choice. You're just going
yeah.
to be taken out of the
Exactly.
course.
Yeah.
Wow,
And then
wow,
and
that's
then you
intense.
can't go back. So that's also like, so that is also, and so that's why, you know, like a foundation year could be interesting because you
Yes,
have a chance to adjust and then like you see if you're ready for it or not.
I see. I understand.
Yeah. So again, well, I will, actually, we're almost done thing. So, so something else is that there's no centralized procedure, right? But there is, you have to really like check the instructions when it comes to, you know, like the application. But there's one thing that everybody has to do, is that they have to start to register via this link called studylink.nl.
Mhm.
And they have to, so what they do is they can choose, I think, up to 4 programs. So they can select up to 4 programs, not 4 universities, only 4 programs, right? So it could be that you're interested in 2 programs of the same university.
Mhm.
You can only choose 4 programs. And once you fill out that, it's kind of like the Common App. So it's like you make your own profile. It's not as complicated. It's really like your name, you know, like, and your information. And then you submit, and then the university, they will send you like information that where you have to upload all the documentation that they need.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
So it's pretty
this is
straightforward. You go on and you put in your name. It's basically like a subscription. You go say, "Hey, my name is Thalita, and I wanna and
yeah,
I
and
want
it's
to
really
apply to the
basic.
Netherlands.
Yeah,
This is my name. This is my city." And then the university is gonna say, "Okay, I need your transcript. I need your requirements. I need
exactly.
your
Yeah.
English proficiency proof, maybe." And that's
Exactly.
it.
Yeah.
Okay,
And they don't even do it. And most universities use the same system. It's called Osiris.
good. Uh-huh.
And that system, like basically what happens is that when you submit your application via StudyLink is from the government, right?
Oh,
Because
I
it's
see.
all public
Okay.
education, right? So you submit your application for StudyLink, then
Mhm.
the university receives it, and then they send you to the email that's registered. They send you like your login information for a portal. And in that
Uh-huh.
portal, that's where you start uploading everything.
Oh, I see. I understand.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure. Do we have information on the costs, Kevin? Oh, yeah,
There
there
it
it
is. Look at
goes.
this. Oh my God. Yeah. So tuition fee for EEA students. So that's people, students that are from the European Union, but also Iceland, Norway, Liechtenstein. So like some countries that are part of the European Economic Area.
Mhm.
And the tuition fee is 2,168 euro a year. So that's well, that's for next year. It goes up a little bit every year. This is
Uh-huh.
set by the government, right? So this is a fixed amount that's by the
Uh-huh.
government. And then people who are not from that, don't have a passport, they then it depends on the program, because each university has an institutional price. And so it's normally around 6,000 up to like 15,000 a year.
I see. I see. I'm just doing some math here. I wanna show our audience how much is it in Rio. So we have 2,000 180 168 per year for those who have European passports. We have many students that do have. We are on the south of Brazil. We have lots of students who have the European passport. So that would be times 684. Let me see, 168. Divided by 12. So that will be 1,000. So em reais, ficaria, para estudar na Holanda, 1.233 reais por mês para estudar numa universidade da Holanda, só a mensalidade, ok, pessoal? De novo, esse preço aqui que o Kevin estava nos falando ali, 2.168 para aqueles que têm passaporte europeu, tá? E aí, já convertendo para reais, por ano, na verdade, por mês, ficaria aí o valor de 1.233 reais por mês. Já para quem não tem passaporte europeu, vamos ver aqui, de 6.000 euros a 15.000 euros, vamos fazer então uma média aí, vamos colocar 10.000 euros anuais, ficaria 5.691 reais por mês, tá? 5.691 reais por mês para quem não tem passaporte europeu. Isso é só para lembrar, né? São os custos sem o custo de vida, só o custo da universidade mesmo. Então, basicamente, os 1.200 reais por mês aí para quem tem passaporte europeu e 5.000 reais por mês para quem não tem passaporte europeu. Okay, very good. Just translating some of the costs.
Yeah,
Our
perfect.
audience just want to know that.
No, it's perfect.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so then living cost, like that depends on you as well. Like, so like approximately between 600 and like 1,000 a month, right? I mean, the Netherlands is not a cheap country, but it's also not like too expensive if you compare it to other countries. Something that I need to mention as well is that there are some exceptions. For instance, like a university college or a program that has less students per teacher, right? So like more, like a hospitality school or medicine program. They do like a little bit higher, like 3,400 or something. So it's a little bit more.
Okay.
But in general, like that's the thing, right? And like, how can you pay for that? So this is also very important. So first of all, if you are a student that has a EU passport, you can apply for a tuition loan. But to do, you need to work in the Netherlands. So you need to work like 14 hours a week to ask for like a government loan, which I'm not going to recommend. I don't think it's good to have like loans, right? Because like loans means that you have to pay them back, and then they will hunt you down. They will find you.
they will make you pay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So then there's something really cool is that Brazil, there's an office. It's called NESO Brazil. It's NESO and stands for Netherlands Education Support Office. And they have an office in I don't know if it's in Brasilia, but because they have an office there, that means that they also have a scholarships particularly for Brazil. So there's like lots of scholarships for Brazilian students called the Orange Tulip Scholarship.
Oh, the Orange Tulip Scholarship. Pessoal, the Orange Tulip the Orange Tulip Scholarship. Ok? Para todos aqui, isso é uma bolsa exclusivamente para brasileiros, tá? Depois a gente faz um postzinho nas nossas mídias sociais, colocando as informações bem certinhas. Fiquem antenados, tá bom? A gente vai passar isso. Okay, I already told them that I was going to make a post on our social media with all those information.
That's awesome. Yeah. So this is also the other thing is that you can also work, right? So if you have a student visa, you can also work. It's not easy because like you have to do everything in 3 years. So like you need to take that responsibility of studying seriously, but you can also work if you want to.
Okay,
so that's also very important, right? But like we also expect like if you need a visa, you need to have like your own financial means to study in the Netherlands.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and then you can find the scholarships. You can find them on the website called grantfinder.nl.
Oh, okay. All right. Very good. Very nice.
Yeah. And that's it. That's it.
Okay.
Like, so all information is available on studyinholland.com. And DO is the government website for education.
Oh, okay, all right. Thank you so much, Kevin. Support. I'm gonna ask the support to close your presentation. Thank you so much, support. They're so quick now.
I think I did it.
Oh, you did it? Okay, that's great. All right.
Just stop sharing.
All right. Então eu vou dar uma olhadinha nos comentários. A gente tem algumas perguntas, pessoal. Se vocês tiverem algumas perguntas, podem mandar pra gente. But other than that, thank you so much, Kevin. I'm gonna give you 2 minutes here for questions. And if we don't have any, I'm just I would just like to thank you, Kevin, for your time, for enlightening us about the Netherlands, such a great country. And while we don't have any questions, I have a couple. Okay. Kevin, where did you go to college? Okay, so you did your undergraduate in the Netherlands, right? And then you did your master's in the US.
Exactly. So I studied a program called European Studies, which I really still like because it was a program that really focused on, it really focused on Europe, but kind of, like becoming like the international worker that Europe needs. So it's like somebody who speaks language or somebody who understands like politics. So I focused more on like EU, like as the institution. But there's also like different ways that you could focus on. You could focus more on business. So, like doing business in Europe, like what do you have to take into consideration? And also communication. So like dealing with other cultures, like intercultural communication. And those were like things that I really liked because it was different, like it wasn't just like one thing. It was different materials. So I really enjoyed that. And really the languages, and it was really international. Yeah.
Did you travel a lot? Did you do I know that in European universities you have Erasmus, right? Which is a program that you can that you can do your 1 year of your university outside of your country.
Yeah, totally. And I did that too. So I like you asked me if I travel a lot. I actually, that's why I don't recommend you borrowing money, because I actually took out the maximum of student loans and I was always traveling. And I also went to Mexico. So I didn't even do my Erasmus. I actually went to Mexico and studied there, which was also really cool, right?
Oh, that's nice. Okay, so that's where you learned your Spanish.
That's where I learned Spanish, but then I lived in Colombia for a while, so that also helped me speak it better. But but those experiences are really good, and I feel that like to travel and really like get to learn it, you also start to appreciate your own country more, right? Like you really understand like where you're coming from, and also like what the differences are.
Yes, definitely. I'd say when I went abroad as well, it was the moment I didn't even think I was patriotic, but as soon as I left Brazil, I was like, okay, I'm Brazilian, man, and I'm here and I want to be an advocate for my country.
Where did you go?
I went to the United States. I went to the United States for high school, and I didn't spend so much time there. I went for high school, so I spent a year. And it was an amazing experience. It was really when I figured out what really I figured out my identity. I had been building it throughout my years in Brazil, but then you realize, when you go abroad and you see all those different cultures, all those, and then you realize, oh, okay, I'm Brazilian,
Yeah.
So
it's awesome. That's really good.
It was very interesting. Kevin, I think we don't have any questions, but thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for again enlightening us. And pessoal, muito obrigada para os que ficaram até aqui. E a gente se vê na próxima semana às 5:30. Thank you so much, Kevin. Bye.
Bye.